Welcome in, everyone, to another edition of the Football Friday podcast. And yes, the whole gang is back in one piece for one episode. I'm very excited about this, guys. Alex Kazora, Ian Hunter, Tyler DeGiacomo. I can't remember the last time we were all together for a show. What's up, guys?
We were together at your wedding. Doesn't that count?
Yeah, I'll give it that, but we just weren't on air.
We should have gone on air for your wedding, but you were busy getting married.
Yeah, a little bit. But actually, we had some reference of the show because we tweeted out that photo of us in the limo. Actually, DJock wasn't in that one, but all right, so never mind. Bad example. Bad example. Okay. Alex, what's going on?
We should have done a podcast from your wedding, show. That'd been great.
I'm sure Lisa would have loved that.
Yeah, probably.
On the head table.
Yeah. Alex, what's going on?
Hey, guys. Good to be back.
How was your entire experience in Latrobe this year?
It was fantastic, like it always is. It was a really good camp, and that was really efficient. It's a physical camp. Pittsburgh's cool because so many other camps are kind of boring. They two-hand touch the whole way through. Pittsburgh's pretty different, so it's a really good treat to get to watch.
Excellent. We will get into that, of course, later on in the show. And I was wondering this as we're starting to record this, and I haven't told you guys about this yet, but this would be a good drinking game, I think, for some of our few listeners here, to see how many times we actually are together, and the times that we aren't together, then they take a drink or something. I think that'd be an interesting drinking game for our listeners.
So they just take one drink if we're not together?
Well, yeah, isn't that how it goes?
So that works out.
Yeah, but so they just take one drink for the whole show?
Well, yeah, because that's, yeah.
Right. It's not much of a drinking game as it is just drink once. I don't really think it's much of a game. I don't think you ever played a drinking game, Petrola, if that's your idea.
That's not really my area of expertise.
Yeah, we know. We were at your bachelor party.
And I think we'll move on at that. And so since we brought up the Steelers, we'll go with them first this week as more news comes out with the Le'Veon Bell situation, as he does tweet out that he will return September 1st. So obviously that makes it 9 days before the start of the season, and that would have him miss the entire preseason. He will not be back, of course, for the third preseason game for the Steelers, which is Saturday at home against the Indianapolis Colts. We kind of saw this coming, guys. We thought maybe he would have a shot to be back for the third preseason game. Obviously, that doesn't sound like it. And he had further tweets daring Pittsburgh to tag him again, and just kind of went on and on about the whole contract situation. And then you had the other report that came out, which, Alex, you guys had on Steelers Depot, that Bell apparently nixed a 5-year deal that his agent apparently had agreed to with the Steelers and then turned it down. But the agent, of course, denied that. So I'll start with you, Alex, on this whole thing. I guess where the Steelers go from here now that they won't have a whole lot of time to get Le'Veon Bell ready for the season.
Well, I mean, I've listened to every podcast, including the ones I haven't been on recently because I've been at camp, and I know every time we talk about the Steelers, we talk about Le'Veon Bell, but there's really not a whole lot left. I think we've covered every single possible angle. He'll get back when he gets back. I got a train coming, so I'll wrap this up, but there's really nothing to say. We've talked about it so much.
Ian, what are your thoughts on where this goes from here?
I don't think this is all that surprising. This is what we expected from the very beginning. If you're Le'Veon Bell, there's no reason for you to show up to training camp or play in a preseason game. Why get hurt when you're looking forward to a new contract? So, no, I'm okay with this. It's best for both sides, to be very honest with you. He'll get in, he'll be fine.
I think it's a little distasteful for me, but I get it. He wants his money. He's deserving of it, but I think he needs to get himself into camp, get ready for the season. But that's just
it's not like Le'Veon Bell's going to show up out of shape. There's no concern about that. And it's not like he has to offense or new scheme or anything like that. It's the same quarterback, the same offensive line, the same wide receivers. He knows where he has to be. He knows what he has to do. The playbook hasn't changed that much. He'll pick it up.
DJock, let me get your thoughts. I know we've commented on this from the times you've been in and out, so your overall thoughts on where this might go for Pittsburgh.
First of all, I know that we're only doing a podcast, not a video cast, but you in the janitor's closet doing this video right now, or what? Are you just?
This is my office at work.
They put you in the closet? I see like one door, a small desk. That's just.
No, that's actually a big room that I share with them. I've taken over the entire thing.
Okay, it just looked like you were really scrunched in there. But, no, I mean, I think it's, agree with everybody else. He doesn't need any more hits in preseason. Le'Veon Bell
can save, and even like one of his best years he has a couple years ago when he was suspended for those 6 games or 4 games and came out, charging. So maybe he'll kind of come out with a chip on his shoulder here. So it's a non-issue. He'll be fine.
All right, so we'll see how that will play out. We'll see if he actually gets there on September 1st. I'm sure he will. But always will be interesting and will surround the Steelers, as we've talked about many times. So we're moving on to what else we've seen so far in the preseason on the field. And Josh Dobbs, Steelers rookie quarterback from the 3rd round this year out of Tennessee, has been getting a lot of playing time. Of course, Steelers resting Ben Roethlisberger. Landry Jones has been hurt all preseason. So Josh Dobbs has been able to start these first 2 preseason games. So kind of wanted to get an evaluation on him at this point. And to me, he's had a so-so preseason. He's had his ups and downs. He hasn't been spectacular, but I don't think he's been dreadful either. I think probably the Giants game was a little bit better than this past game against the Falcons. But Alex, let me start with you on this and what you've liked and haven't liked from Josh Dobbs so far.
I think he summed it up pretty well, Petrillo. I think he's been fine. It's not been great. It's not been terrible. I think just from a foundational standpoint about, getting out of the huddle quickly, commanding the offense, no delay games, clean center, quarterback exchanges, clean quarterback running back handoffs, all those details that most football fans will take for granted, especially when they have franchise-established quarterbacks. I think Dobbs has done very well with, at the beginning. I think his accuracy vertically, his ball placement downfield is really strong. I think he's got a live arm. He can throw on the run. He can throw from difficult platforms. So I think there's a good base to work with. It's about consistency. It's about the short and intermediate game he's had problems with. It's not too dissimilar from Landry Jones, where Jones is at his career right now, where you have a guy that can really push the ball downfield with good ball placement and accuracy, but on some of those short, intermediate timing routes, slant routes, for an example, he gets into problems. And then we've seen some decision-making issues in a guy that's maybe doing a little too much. But I think it's a very, as expected for a rookie, you're seeing some growth, you're seeing some mental toughness. So while it's not been a great performance on the field for him, there's certainly some positive things to take away.
Well, hopefully he can elevate himself beyond Landry Jones' status. Let me just say that first for any Steelers fans who might be
listening. Well, just where he's at right now.
All right, I get it. It was more of a crack at Landry Jones that I know most Steelers fans would enjoy. But a couple things I'll add to that, Alex, is I think the biggest thing to take away from Josh Dobbs in these first 2 preseason games is I'll even refer back to the Giants game. And after he had that rough start where he threw the 2 picks in a row, you saw him able to bounce back and lead a couple nice touchdown drives. He had a couple of those nice deep balls down the far sideline there. I think it was in the 3rd quarter of that game. So I think the fact that he was able to bounce back from that, I think, shows a lot of good mental toughness from him early. And the other thing too, whether he did good or bad or indifferent, he faced 2 really good defenses from the NFC. That Giants pass rush is very good. Same with Atlanta. So even though he may not have been perfect, the fact that he got that experience against some of those good defenses, I think, is very valuable too. Let me go to Ian now.
I think he's the 3rd-string quarterback for a reason. Alex hit pretty much every point that I would have brought up. Just the consistency, which is not dissimilar from any other rookie quarterback drafted in whatever round. Being that he was a 4th-round pick, sometimes he plays like that, and that's okay. That's to be expected. I did see a little bit of growth from game 1 to game 2, which is good, and I'm looking forward to see what he does in game 3. If he can keep getting better every time he's on the field, that's all you can ask for.
Definitely, yeah. Like I said, he's been pretty much as good as a rookie's going to look, I think. And again, hasn't been good, hasn't been great, hasn't been terrible. He's kind of been in the middle. He's had his ups and downs. DJock, what are your thoughts?
No, same thing again. He looked very well, but Alex said too, he's a 3rd-string quarterback. Not gonna see the field, but it'd be nice, him, kind of pushing Landry Jones there for the number 2 spot. But no, he's looked good. It's a good bright spot so far. Knock on wood in case if something happens to Ben. They have a solid backup. Or a guy 2 in the hole. Overall, it looked pretty good this preseason.
Now let's get ready for the Colts game coming up on Saturday night. And Ian, you and I talked about last week all the good competition we've been seeing, especially at receiver, especially on offensive line and in other positions around the team. So I'll start with you this time, Ian. Give me some other some other guys and areas you're looking at for this third preseason game, of course, once the starters get off the field here?
I want to see the continued good play of the Steelers' defensive line. I mean, Javon Hargrave, Stephon Tuitt, and Cam Hayward played really well last week. They played well the week before. I want to see those guys continue to play well. TJ Watt had some moments in last game as well, maybe not as splashy, but he played pretty well. So I want to continue to see growth in those areas. Hopefully, some guys who hadn't been playing will play. Hopefully, Cam Sutton and Juju Smith-Schuster get on the field this week. That's pretty much what I'm looking forward to. I think everyone's talking about Ben Roethlisberger and Antonio Brown playing in this game. They'll play for maybe a series or two, and they'll be right back on the bench where they belong at this point in the year. Those guys will be fine and ready to go. I want to see the young guys. I want to see the guys who are fighting for this roster. And actually, a new development today, I want to see the cornerback battle that's opened up between Sensabaugh and Cockrell.
Yeah, that's true. It's a very good point. That's definitely going to be something to watch out for. Alex, let's go to you now. Who do you have on your radar, starters-wise, and then beyond that?
Well, I mean, I'll pick up the baton, where Ian handed it to me about the secondary, because that's probably the number one thing for me. I think Ben and AB might play a little longer than that. They might play, into the second quarter at least. But, that secondary obviously struggled last week against Atlanta, and now Steelers are trying to shake things up. They've gotten Sensabaugh some reps with the ones. They just traded for Deshaun Phillips, who's a Washington kid. So they're clearly trying to make some moves. Not totally satisfied with that group. They played pretty poorly last week. The Steelers secondary did, and they certainly have to rebound against a Colts team that will not have Andrew Luck, won't have some of their weapons. So they got to look good against the Colts.
Yeah, absolutely. And against a Colts offense that's struggling, obviously there's not going to be Andrew Luck this Saturday. So that should be, if you're the Steelers, hopefully a good bounce back game for the secondary there. DJock, let me go to you now. TJ Watt has had a really outstanding camp, and he's played well in these first two preseason games. Thoughts on that, and the receivers, and anything else you may have your radar for the Steelers upcoming here on Saturday?
Nothing particular. Kind of, Alex and Ian, know a little bit more on the subject than me, but I'm not, from that outside perspective, I think the Steelers have looked good. I mean, I think with every team, health is an issue. Make sure, guys go in healthy and they leave healthy. But no, as I said, the Steelers have looked very good this preseason. This is a team, that the last, have been picked to, go to Super Bowl, win a Super Bowl, So I think you have maybe another year or two, kind of this, nucleation of and Roethlisberger talked about at the beginning of the year. His heart's really not in it this year. In more ways than one, because can't think about injuries and. Our Steelers window is open about 4 or 5 years. Haven't come across with any Super Bowls here, so going to this third game, fourth game, in the beginning of the season, this team has a lot of pressure on them with a window that's pretty almost closed here. Le'Veon Bell thing, nice to have him back eventually. Have Martavis Bryant now. Hopefully he cleans his act up. So overall, as a Steelers fan, Steelers Nation here, weary here, hoping that the Steelers, this is their year. In a year that possibly be the last season of greatness, or as we know the Steelers team.
Well, as I've said before, I think this is a 13-win team. I think they have the talent to be there, especially on the offensive end. We talked about the depth of receiver, what they have on the offensive line, and obviously with Bell in the backfield and Ben. And then defensively, I think front seven, I think they're in good shape. We talked about the secondary struggles. Alex, do you kind of feel that kind of similar way? Where do you see this team right now heading into the third preseason game?
In terms of what? The secondary, the overall team?
Overall from the number ones.
Well, I mean, they're going to be the favorite for the AFC North, and, they're going to be maybe the biggest challenger, or at least one of the biggest challengers. You can throw Oakland in there, too, to the Patriots. I mean, I think they're probably up as like an 11-win team, though, because they always lose 1 or 2 games that they shouldn't. They have a tough second half of the season. They have some short weeks, some stuff like that they got to deal with. So, we've talked about them before. Obviously, they're a clearly talented team. They could have one of the best offenses in the league. I think the defense is going to improve. It's all going to be about a guy like that, Bud Dupree and their ability to generate a 4-man pass rush. But I think the defense has improved. The offense is obviously great. So, they're going to be their favorites, and obviously not winning the AFC North would be a major disappointment.
But Alex, this is kind of, not to go off topic here, but this is a discussion of every year, because the Steelers are in probably one of the weakest divisions in football. I consider it. With the Browns, all of them, the Ravens falling off. So every year, they should win, 10 games by default. But every year they win 10, 11, 12 games, go to playoffs, and they lose. I mean, again, I guess you're kind of biased, unbiased, but aren't you getting frustrated? Even Ian too can speak to that. I'm getting frustrated as a team every year that's projected for high standards. Every year, win a division, go to Super Bowl, which is nice. But every year, they kind of lets you down. Do you have any feeling of that? That's kind of like, oh, here we go again. The Steelers are gonna, break our hearts per se, because they're, every year favorite to win a division, go to Super Bowl, but it just hasn't happened of late. I know you guys have your.
Well, I mean, listen, the last couple of years, so that when they've gone to the playoffs, they've lost to the eventual Super Bowl champion. So it's hard to get too mad whenever you get your butt beat by the Patriots and they go on to win the Super Bowl, or with the Denver Broncos, they go on to win the Super Bowl. So it's frustrating, but I mean, listen, the Steelers made the AFC Championship last year. We can't overlook that. It's not like they had this talented team and went 3-13. They made the AFC Championship game last year and went into Arrowhead Stadium and won a really tough playoff game with bad conditions. Went into Foxborough. I mean, these are games those are hard games, and they're professional athletes on the other side too. So I think, is it frustrating when they don't win the Super Bowl every year? Sure, but I think you have to keep it in perspective that how far they make it.
Yeah, no, I'm basically with Ian. It's frustrating, but obviously, to be very cliche and trite about it, winning Super Bowl is tough, and the Patriots haven't figured out a way to overcome them. And to your point about the AFC North, it's obviously pretty weak this year, DJock, but, up until last year, it was one of the best divisions in football. So, it's historically been really good, and then last year things kind of started to take a turn.
And the Browns are going to be better this year. I think we can all admit that. We watched that game against the Giants for a split second. You saw how good some of those young players of the Browns are playing. I'm not saying they're going to be world beaters this year, but they're going to be better.
They'll be a 5-6 win team, I think, this year at best. I think that's their window.
What was that?
I think at best their window this year is a 5-6 win team, Cleveland.
Hey, that's almost 500 for them. That's a remarkable turnaround from what we've seen.
Oh, yeah. Don't want to discount that, but I'm just saying when we're saying Cleveland's going to improve, we're not saying they're going to improve greatly like they're going to be a playoff contender. They're still going to be down in the cellar, but they're going to win a few more games. I get it there, especially defensively.
I think Cleveland's got a chance to give teams some problems this year. They have some young guys in some key areas that are good players, so I think they have a chance to give guys problems. I'm not saying they're going to win all of those games, but it's not like the teams will be able to walk into a stadium with the Browns and be like, all right, this is easy. We'll hang 42 and we'll be fine.
Well, we're going to get into the Browns a little bit later on in the show on the offensive side, talking about DeShone Kizer getting a chance to start in the Browns' third preseason game on Saturday, so we'll get to that later on. But next, we're going to go to the Eagles. A lot of speculation out of Philly this week, guys, about LeGarrette Blount's future as an Eagle. Head coach Doug Peterson shot down those rumors Tuesday during his press conference, and so I guess I'll throw the question out to you first. DJock, I'll start with you. Do you think LeGarrette Blount is no longer a lock on the Eagles roster?
I don't know. I mean, going back, he was never a fit for this team, this offense. He excelled a lot in the Patriots offense. He got a couple carries. He's a downhill runner. But this offense, this scheme doesn't really fit well to him overall.
But how does it?
He's kind of...
My question is, how does it not fit the scheme? Because we've only seen 9 snaps from him. Obviously, I'm going on the limb here that this has been totally overblown, and that's rare for me to say. So that's saying something, I think. But 2, when Doug Peterson did run the ball up the middle, LeGarrette Blount was starting to get some steam a little bit there before he had that fumble on the pass catch there against Buffalo last week. So I think Doug Peterson's still trying to figure a few things out. Blount missed some time because he had those personal issues that came up. So I think we just got to pump the brakes a little bit here. I think he will be a fit in this offense. I think you will see Doug Peterson. He's still going to throw the ball a ton, but I still think you're going to see him use LeGarrette Blount pretty heavily, and I think he will fit this.
Well, if you think about Matt from an Eagles perspective, Eagles have always had those little, short, stocky, quick little running backs with the Brian Westbrooks and now the Wendell Smallwoods of the world and Darren Sproles. This Eagles offense and scheme does not suit well to a big lumbering back like a Blount, like a DeMarco Murray, so maybe just kind of Doug Peterson and Andy Reid type Eagles scheme that he can't coalesce to a bigger running back, and the offense is just built for those small little running backs. But also Blunt's been around for 9 years now, 10 years, kind of banged up, a little bit older by running back standards. I mean, I don't think he's going to get cut. I think he'll be on teams, see what happens, and maybe pasture the rest of the season. But no, I mean, as I said before, I said last week, the Eagles' offense, will look pretty good. I mean, there was kind of now some chemistry stuff because they got rid of Jordan Matthews, but now they showed up at the cornerback position. So no, I think this Eagles' offense, I'm not worried about at all. It's the defense last couple of years that's kind of let us down. So, yeah.
Well, the thing I'll say about where the offense has been, through the Andy Reid years and, through DeMarco Murray with Chip Kelly, just to go on the limb, Chip Kelly obviously has had a totally different system to what Doug Peterson and Andy Reid are using, though they still have some spread concepts now in the West Coast, in their version of it. But they still have a lot of plays and designs where they'll run the football up the middle. You barely saw that with Chip Kelly, and that's why you had the issues with DeMarco Murray, who was more of a downhill type of back, who didn't really work when they tried to run all those outside zone plays, in that 1 year in 2015. And the concern is that came back up when you saw Doug Peterson try those similar outside zone plays, though by different design, through those first couple of plays in the Buffalo game, and that's how they got off to a slow start there. But part of that also too is the Eagles' offensive line hasn't been gelling so far, which is somewhat of a concern in itself, because you've had guys in and out of the lineup. Jason Peters had a family issue last week; he didn't play. Brandon Brooks has been hurt, so he didn't play last week. So guys have been shuffled around a little bit. So I think that's been part of the issue too. But it's still not enough snaps for me to really decide anything yet. Would you like to see it improve? I want to see it improve tonight against the Dolphins. Absolutely. Then maybe there's a little bit more panic you can justifiably put in there. But still, we still got a long way to go. I think there's still a lot of things that still have to be put in together. And
it's only the preseason. Let's not overlook that. I mean, why would you waste LeGarrette Blount now when you need him healthy in about 8 weeks?
That's it.
When it's starting to get colder outside.
And you're really starting to see overall, not just with LeGarrette Blount, but with Alshon Jeffrey as another name in there, is Doug Peterson's being very extra careful with some of his starters this year, making sure nobody gets hurt. And even with Carson Wentz, too, for that matter.
Yeah, absolutely.
Alex, what are your thoughts on all this, where Blount should or might stand with the Eagles here going forward?
I think you should just get ready to be disappointed by LeGarrette Blount, because outside in New England, and it's New England, and they have this crazy thing that they can just make guys work, he's always had poor numbers. Again, in Pittsburgh, he was one of the worst rushing performances in Steelers history when he was with Pittsburgh. And, Tampa Bay, he struggled, and even last year he averaged under 4 yards a carry, just a short yardage kind of guy, where you could have probably plugged anybody in there. Short yardage situations is usually about the push your offensive line can get rather than just your running back creating himself. So it's obviously going to give you nothing out of the backfield. He's going to make your offense more limited, more predictable. He had the fumble, which is always a concern. Ball security, the number one thing. So I wouldn't be, your running back roster is kind of thin right now with, Matthews gone and Smallwood, I think, has had injuries. Humphrey hasn't worked out perfectly yet so far, so you might still have to keep him because you don't have a lot of other options. But I still think at some point Smallwood becomes more the guy than LeGarrette Blount.
I think that's what the Eagles hope to have at least, but I still think at best for a guy like Smallwood, he's going to be in a running back by committee, and I recognize that, and for the Eagles' sake, for bringing Smallwood in last year, that'd be nice to see, and then you can kind of preserve Blount a little bit too from getting hit all the time, like DJock you were talking about before. But I mean, overall, I just really haven't seen enough in general to kind of get a feel for it. Does it not look pleasant right now? Yeah, I'm not going to deny that. 47 total yards in one game and 66 in another game, doesn't cut it to try and win football games and trying to run the ball and establish it. So I want to see, obviously, a cleaner game here tonight. But if it doesn't work out tonight, then maybe you'll start throwing the panic button out there a little bit more. But even so, I kind of want to see a few games into the regular season. Then we can throw the panic button out for sure. But that was just my take there from LeGarrette Blount. I think we just got to pump the brakes a little bit. But I get the speculation because of Blount's past history minus the New England Patriots, as Alex, you referred to. So let me go now to to Ronald Darby, who had a great debut last week for the Eagles after getting traded in that Jordan Matthews trade to the Eagles from the Buffalo Bills. He almost had the pick six attempt on the first series, and then obviously he had the interception and then returned it deep into Bills territory a few series later on that jump ball by Tyrod Taylor. He had the pressure from the backside, and just a good play by Darby. And immediately, the one thing that everybody talked about with Darby is that blazing speed he brought to the table, and you immediately saw that impact right away. And he's very smart too, and looking back to football, anticipating plays and things like that. And so I really like what I saw out of Ronald Darby. DJock, I know obviously playing the Bills up your way. I'm sure you've heard a lot of reaction about that. So give me your thoughts on what you saw from the Eagles' newest cornerback.
Well, no, yeah, up here in Buffalo, they want to, kill Sean McDermott already. How can you trade away Sammy Watkins? He's only a good wide receiver, and that's kind of the reason why Anquan Bolden retired. He was here for 2 weeks and said, okay, you traded away your best wide receiver. You're not doing anything to help this team, and you guys are in a kind of tank. I'm going to go away for humanitarian reasons when he saw that this team is going to be expected. So that's kind of the thing. I mean, people love Darby. He's a great cornerback. And then also today, Stephen Gilmore didn't resign this past offseason. He went to the Patriots. So now they lost two of the best corners here in the offseason, plus the best wide receiver. So Bills fans are kind of upset by that. But on the Eagles' perspective, I love it. I mean, I was kind of going back and forth at the beginning. The trade wasn't really sure. But the Eagles really must see something in Nelson Aguilar to be able to, think that Jordan Matthews is expendable. Aguilar better step his game up a lot.
I totally agree, and that's my biggest concern going into the season.
Yeah, so that was a lot there. But also, but the Eagles had a big glaring need at quarterback, Matt, as you know, for a couple of years now. So Darby is very young. He's 25, 26. I think he's still got a couple years on his contract, and that's kind of why with the Jordan Matthews thing, it was the last year of his deal, and the Eagles probably wouldn't be able to re-sign Matthews anyway. So to get Darby out of that was great there. So he's looked good. Rasul Douglas, the West Virginia, looked pretty good, and maybe end of this year, next year, Sidney Jones will come back healthy. So going forward, you're going to have three very good corners, three above-average corners. Sidney Jones, was projected as the best cornerback in the draft last year, but he went down with his knee injury, and the Eagles got him as a steal in the second round. So as I said, going forward, you have three very good cornerbacks, a wide receiver core, which is pretty solid. Jeffrey's kind of been slow and hampered, but he's looking pretty good. Torrey Smith is also very good. Aguilar's going to step up. So I going, being far from the trade now, I really, really like the trade, and the Eagles felt the need, and, I think they're doing very well so far.
Well, for a guy like me who was a little reluctant about this trade, certainly made me feel a lot better with the way he played last week, and I think he can continue to do that, but I'm still going to reserve my concern about letting Jordan Matthews go with all the attention that's been going to Nelson Aguilar. But my other hope is, as I mentioned last week, that a guy like Matt Collins will step up. And he didn't have that great a game last week. He had the big touchdown the first week against Green Bay. So we'll see if he can improve there. Plus he has the special teams factor with him. So I was really encouraged by that with Ronald Darby. Ian, I'll go to you now. What you saw from him last week?
Yeah, I think he played great, so I don't want to take anything away from him. But isn't it nice to have a cornerback with great ball skills behind a defensive line that gets after the quarterback and makes life for quarterbacks a pain in the neck? That's what we saw. We saw a guy who was able to take advantage of balls that were thrown off target because the defensive line was putting pressure on Tyrod Taylor. The Eagles' defensive line had a great day. Now, I get that Buffalo's offensive line is not really that great, but, man, they got after it. They really, really did. And that's a big deal. I mean, that's what you need if you're going to be a successful defense. You need to get good pass rush. You need to force turnovers. And I think the Eagles have a really good shot at doing that this year. I think the Eagles are going to be a really good team. And if we learn anything, and I know we're going to talk about the Browns later, so I'll talk about the Giants' offensive line when we talk about the Browns. But if you look at the Eagles' offensive line, I know they've had some issues, but when you get Peters back, you'll be okay. When the Eagles have their line set, they're going to be one of the favorites in the NFC East. We can all admit that, right? they're going to be one of the better teams.
I'm not ready to say that yet, but I obviously would love to see
You have
that.
a defense. You have guys in the back. I mean, you have a good safety in Jenkins. You now have a good cornerback. You have a really good front seven. You have a quarterback who's getting better and better, and an offensive line that at least can work together well enough to help you win games, and some wide receivers who can actually catch a football.
Yes, that is a
Those
plus.
are all things conducive to winning. So I think the Eagles have a really good shot at overtaking the NFC East this year, especially if Zeke Elliott's suspension stays at that 6 games.
Right, that does help, and if the Giants get set back by a game or two without ODB, depending on how that goes, or I think he still will play Week 1, then I think that helps because every game matters when in a 16-game schedule in the NFL. So I think that definitely would be nice for the Eagles to have some things go their way, considering the tough schedule they have to play and have to take care of their own business. But I've said from the beginning, even though I have them as an 8-8 team right now, based on the schedule we did a couple months ago, is there. But this is going to be really competitive division still. The NFC in general is going to be really tough. Like I said, I think there's going to be 3 teams either from the NFC East or 3 teams from the NFC South that go to the playoffs this year, and the Eagles are going to be right in the thick of that, I think, and will be, in fact, more in the conversation. But I still don't know if they have enough to put themselves over the top, but we'll see, and we'll see if other things go their way, injury types, things like that. Alex, I'll go to you now about Ronald Darby's performance last week.
Well, Petrillo, I think, as you like to do, you're just hedging on most things with this trade. You're saying, no, I look better, but I still am a little worried. So if it works out, you can say, yeah, I look good. Or if it doesn't work out, you can say, well, I was telling you guys. So in your typical Petrillo fashion. But I think the reason they made that trade showed up last week, and that, you couldn't win with Jordan Matthews in that secondary. You have a chance to win with Darby and the receivers you have. Yes, trusting Aguilar is a leap of faith. Yes, it is a downgrade from Matthews to Aguilar, but you needed the help in the secondary. You couldn't rely on, talk about leaps of faith. I'd rather put my faith in Aguilar than a Rasul Douglas, a rookie corner that I think is an average athlete that's going to get burned. So, I think it was a deal that you had to make. And like we talked about last week, Matthews was the guy going into last year of his deal, unlikely to be retained after this season. You had to worry about Alshon Jeffrey was probably going to be at the top of the list over Jordan Matthews. Receivers are expensive. You can't keep everybody. And Darby's under cheap, I think on his rookie deal for this year and next, which is kind of the big key. He's cheap for 2018. So I think it's a move that you had to make, and I think you saw some of that payoff begin last week.
Yeah. Fair point. I got to see more from Aguilar, but I mean, and if anything, even if Aguilar does fade here for whatever reason, then at least the Eagles still got a cornerback in return, and then they'll just have to figure things out again at receiver at this point. But let's move on now to what we're going to see from the Dolphins game tonight. DJock, start with you. Plenty to look at in this one. Obviously, the continued maturation of Carson Wentz, and hopefully looking for the offense to bounce back. He even mentioned yesterday during practice he wants to see everybody be much more sharper than they were last week against the Bills. So obviously the running game is top for me. Then defensively, can the D-line keep it going? You mentioned Rasul Douglas. I was encouraged by what he did last week, and I want to see continued improvement there. And I'm looking at Donnell Pumphrey because Corey Clements had an outstanding, I want to say outstanding game, but he had a pretty good game last week. He obviously had one of the few touchdowns the Eagles scored. So it's him and Pumphrey now are really going to be battling it out for a roster spot. So that's one other thing I'm looking at too. So what do you got there for me for this game against Miami?
Well, no, I mean, the third preseason game, I guess, is considered the most important because the starters play like the first half or so. But kind of same thing I said during the Steelers segment. Just health. They make sure guys go in, knock on what you saw what happened to Odell Beckham on a routine play there. Guy went up and that was a clean tackle. I would get into that. That was a clean tackle. But again, just hoping for health there, timing with the wide receivers, the defense looking good. Nothing really particular, but the Eagles just make sure everyone looks good, looks healthy, but we get in, get out. I don't put a lot of stock in the preseason. I mean, I think. It has its merits, but and it's the last preseason game that we'll see the starters in. With Zach, so it says preseason means something to everybody. It's the last guy on the roster trying to make the team, et cetera, et cetera. So games are important, but the overall scheme of things, it's not vastly, important. But yeah, just go in, look good, get timing, all good stuff. Nothing and nobody in particular. So I'm just kind of a blasé when it comes to preseason stuff.
And I've become more like that over the years too, DJock. I think that's important to keep in mind. Talking about the LeGarrette Blount situation, what we saw at cornerback with Ronald Darby this past week, and all the things we talked about with the Eagles this offseason is, I think I go back to the time when we all got burned by Chip Kelly in the preseason, by the way, how good everything looked. So I think that's just taught me to keep things in perspective and take things with a slight grain of salt at least for things we see in the preseason. But obviously valid points for what you mentioned. That definitely is something to look out for tonight against the Dolphins. Ian, let me go to you now and what your expectations are to see from the Eagles tonight against Miami.
I just want to see a little bit more cohesion along their offensive line. Lane Johnson got his butt handed to him.
We're going to talk about him in a second.
Yeah, and he was bad, and so he's got to play better. Now, he's a right tackle. He hasn't really played left tackle, and I think we saw last week why he's better suited at right tackle, and that's fine. But he needs to play better because someone was in Carson Wentz's ear hole every time he dropped back to pass. So he's got to play better. I haven't looked at the injury report or the non-player report to see if Jason Peters is playing. If Jason Peters doesn't play in a preseason game, I think that'll be fine. But just a little bit more cohesiveness. You want to see Darby pick things up again and kind of see where he is from game to game and get your guys ready to go. I mean, you have some young guys that you really like. Keep getting those guys ready to rock and roll, and then go play. And that's what the third preseason game is the dress rehearsal game, and so you just want to see where everyone's at in this culmination of the preseason process.
One other name I'll throw out there, Michael Kendricks. He's quietly had a very, very productive preseason. 2
I don't
interceptions.
think it's been quiet. He had a couple of really, really great plays and a lot of speed, rushing the passer specifically. And he came in so fast on one. I think it was actually a Cosman interception, the Darby interception.
Right.
He came in flying off the left side. So he's a guy who's having a really, really strong preseason. And he's a better player than most people, including you, Matt, give him credit for.
I mean, he's just taken a step back from me the last couple of years, but I think now, Ian, he's realizing with some of the moves that the Eagles have been making, especially, you look at the Jordan Matthews trade just recently, I think not only is he auditioning for playing time, I think he's still auditioning for all the other 31 teams who may need somebody if an injury or something comes up or they want to make a move to make some noise for their own camp. Because I still think that there's a chance he gets traded.
He's a better player than to be in someone's camp. He's a good player.
Well, what I'm saying is, he'll get that opportunity to start, is what I'm saying. Because he's not starting now with the Eagles.
And to be honest with you, it's easier to be a better player when you're playing behind that defensive line. That defensive line is so deep and has so many good players on it that being a linebacker behind it, life's pretty good because guys aren't on you. You're free to run around and make plays. So you're going to look better whenever you're free to run around and make plays. And Michael Kendricks is a guy who's, when he's free to make plays, he makes them. So I think this is an Eagles team, guys, that has a legitimate shot at doing something pretty good this year. I really believe that.
And I really hope you're right. I think they're very close, and I still think there's a few things that are going to hold them back, but I will bring it right back to you. I will praise you if they do as good as you think they're going to.
What is holding the Eagles back?
To me, cornerback.
Okay, well, they addressed that.
It's still only one side, though. You still have a lot of young guys, and it's very thin, I think.
Okay, so you have a great pass rusher, a really good safety, a really good cornerback. That means you can put some extra coverage on the side where the younger cornerback is.
Okay, I guess I'll give you that. They did add Corey Graham to another Buffalo guy under Jim Schwartz, so I guess that could be someone who could fill that role. Then you obviously the receivers outside of Torrey Smith and Alshon Jeffrey. Where is that going to happen? And then I'm not concerned about the running game right now, but if they have another bad night, that could be something that'll linger. And so those are going to be a couple of things there. But I just think the secondary to me is the biggest issue for this team still.
And it's going to get better. You drafted guys this year to help you out. Now, Sidney Jones may or may not play at all this year. But there's a light at the end of the tunnel when it comes to the secondary for the Eagles. And listen, I've watched a lot of teams win Super Bowls with really, really bad cornerback play. So if you have a great pass rush, which the Eagles do, you can win a lot of ball games. If that pass rush gets hot during the playoffs, it's harder to stop. So this is an Eagles team that has a chance, a legit chance at doing something special. It'll all come down to Carson Wentz and him building on what he did last year, but it's a legitimate chance.
Right, he's got to take better care of the football, which I think he will do in this second year. And he's going back to
giving a better wide receivers, absolutely.
I think that will definitely help, absolutely. And when you look at that too, I want to see more of emergence of Zach Ertz. And I've talked about this many times already. He's been hyped every year. Oh, this is going to be the big year for him. This is going to be his year, and then he falls way short, whether it's injury or just poor play or whatever the case may be. I want to see that this year, and he's going to be key in doing that. I almost go out and almost say almost vital for him to be that way because of the Jordan Matthews trade. And if Aguilar doesn't fit out, he's going to be that go-to guy in the slot, especially with Doug Peterson, a guy who likes to run multiple tight ends.
I agree with you.
Alex, let me go to you now on what you're looking for from the Eagles tonight.
Well, you guys have had the good discussion about where are the Eagles good at, what do they have to improve on. I still go back to that run game. Who is the key guy? Is there a key guy? And I can't identify that. It was a problem last year. It was a problem in 2015, which granted was, I think, a large part because of Chip Kelly's scheme, which I think you made a good point, Control pointed out earlier. But who is the guy this year? You know my thoughts and reservations on LeGarrette Blount. We've had the injury to Smallwood. People have been talking up Corey Clement. I'm a big Corey Clement guy, but that means you're talking up a UDFA that maybe gets the looks, which kind of I think tells you about the place this run game is in. So that was a huge issue last year, and why this team, after a hot start, really faded was that run game was not consistent. When the weather gets bad in November and December in Philadelphia, you can't throw the ball 50 times a game.
Exactly.
Can you run the ball and grind stuff out? And I think that's still a question that's not been answered adequately.
Not only that, too, you're just not doing yourself a favor in protecting your young quarterback, your franchise quarterback in Carson Wentz, by throwing the ball 50, 60 times a game because you can't rely on the running back.
They pointed it out as an issue last year. They said they just threw the ball way too much.
Yeah, I think he broke a rookie record of 608 passes attempted. It was something ridiculous like that. And so far in the preseason, the balance was a little bit better this past game, but even so, it's still not quite there in the run to pass ratio. Though we've had our differences on that, Alex. But all in all, fair point about LeGarrette Blount. I know in the past, I still think he's going to be fairly productive, but I do worry about Smallwood and that injury. I want to see him play and then make some noise coming up tonight against the Dolphins. So before we move on to the Cleveland Giants game, a lot to talk about from coming out of those two camps. Lane Johnson this week, guys, and Ian, you talked about him, so I'm going to start with you on this. After the poor game he had against the Bills the other night, and after all that we saw from him last season with the 10-game suspension with the PED usage, and that clearly set the Eagles back in their season. They won just 2 games without him. And then he goes on a limb in the Players Tribune and says those comments that we're gonna whoop some you-know-what on the Redskins come week 1. I mean, you just can't say stuff like that, especially from the past that you've had and after that performance you had last week. So, and I tweeted this out. Again, Lane Johnson does not think before he acts. This stuff is bulletin board material, especially when you face a division opponent. I don't care how bad or good they are. I don't think the Redskins are a very good team this year. So, I just don't get how stupid he can be.
There's 2 ways to think about this. First off, should Lane Johnson have said this after Jerry Hughes embarrassed him on national television last week during a preseason game? Probably not. On the other side of that, listen, if your players don't think they can whoop, we can say it because we're okay, that, you want your players to be able to say, hey, I'm going to go whoop that guy's ass. That's their job. And if they don't have the confidence to do that, then you have a bigger problem.
Yeah, but you can have that confidence, but just don't say it publicly. Keep it in the locker room. I don't care. You can say it as many times as you want if you're in the locker room. Just don't say it publicly.
I mean, do we really think the Redskins are going to put this on their bulletin board, though? I mean, is it that
I think all of it's fair game when it comes to the NFL. I really believe that.
I don't know. I think, listen, I think Lane Johnson should have reserved himself to see if he played better this week before he said that, but that's my only thing. But, hey, listen, if he has to talk like that to get himself back in a groove, then, hey, do what you got to do. Get ready for the regular season and get ready to go.
I don't know. I just think there's a time and a place for those comments, and if you have to do it to keep your confidence up, say it to yourself, say it to your teammates. Don't put it out in public. DJock, what are your thoughts on this?
No, I loved it. I mean, this is what you want to hear. This is what makes sports great. It's a rivalry. And Lane Johnson is, good enough to back it up. I mean, what's it gonna? There's no harm to it. Yeah, he's saying some words. That's not gonna be, the bulletin board stuff. That's the cliche answer, but it's fine. I mean, it makes it exciting. It makes it ready for meaningful football games. Makes it ready for those November, December cold games or whatever. I mean, I love it. I mean, I'm a fan of trash talk, and especially when the Eagles are the better team. It looks like on paper, and as we said again every week, the Pro Football Focus rated the Eagles as the best offensive line in football. So now, I mean, obviously, yeah, if Lane Johnson goes out, the Eagles suck, and if they'll come back and haunt him, okay, great. I'm going to have somebody that's cocky enough and that's balls enough to go out and say, no, we're going to do this, blah, blah. No, I love it. I love trash talk. I love getting fired up. I love, adding more fuel to the fire. I love it.
I guess I'm in the minority with this then. Alex?
Yeah, I side with DJock. I think your clutch and your pearl is a little too tight, Catrillo. He's a lineman. What do you want him to say? Linemen aren't graceful. They're not nice. You want to have that confidence. Coach says that. I can understand a different story, different standard. I'm not crazy about Rex Ryan's shtick, and obviously he's out of a job right now. He's doing some ESPN stuff. I didn't read this article until you mentioned it, Catrillo, so I just kind of pulled it up, and I was skimming through. I saw the comments about Washington. The only thing that irked me about what all Lane Johnson said in the Players Tribune was just that he wouldn't take accountability for the suspension last year. He says last year was screwed up. He said he still has issues with the NFL and the union for how they handle things. He's not taking any accountability and saying, I screwed up, it's my mistake. He's trying to make those excuses. It's not a really a big deal. It's going to be forgotten about, but you got to own up to that. And also, just keep in mind with Players Tribune, players don't actually write this. Lane Johnson did not sit down and write this article. He talks to a guy who ghostwrites it for him. So just be clear about we don't even know exactly what Lane Johnson said and how that sentence was created based off of what Lane Johnson said. So just a little caveat there.
No, it's a great point you bring up about him not owning up to what happened to him last year. I mean, you have to be able to do that. Again, you control what you put in your own body, and there's many resources for you to make sure what's clean, what's not clean in the NFL. So we're not going to get in that conversation again, but I think that's a very valid point to bring up, that he needs to still own up to that, and he still hasn't. So I think that's a good point. That was just my one small rant for the day. That just kind of irked me when I saw it, but I guess I'm in the minority.
Just one? Is that what we're limiting you to? Is just one? This will be a short show if you just have one. You're going to have to pick and choose, Catrillo.
Well, I'm picking that one. That's why I say that.
That's like your fourth this show already.
I guess I got to do a better job with that then.
Yes, you do. You have to learn to count. I understand you're a comm major, but get it together.
Anyway, so now we will go to the Cleveland Giants game on Monday night, which was a total disaster to watch. But we'll start with the Giants first. Of course, the big storyline. ODB suffering the sprained ankle in the game against Cleveland. He could miss the opener in Dallas. We'll see. Some people even say maybe week 2. I don't think he even misses the Dallas game. But nonetheless, he takes that hit. That's been talked about and debated about all week. Was that clean? Should that be done in the preseason? But it's easy to think that way, and I'm guilty of thinking about it that way at first. But the more and more I watch it, I just really don't know what the cornerback should have done in that situation. I think it was just a vulnerable spot. It was just one of those things where it was just a wrong place, wrong time type of thing for ODB. And, of course, obviously he's going to be upset by that. I don't blame him for getting hit at the knees. You don't want to see anybody get hit at the knees like that. Alex, let me start with you on this. Thoughts on the hit, and I guess we'll kind of go from there. How this might hurt the Giants if he's out week 1.
Anyone who thinks this is a dirty play or an illegal play or anything like that is an idiot. This was fine. The NFL has policed the rules so much where you can't go high, which I understand. I don't have a big problem with that. So players, of course, are going to go low, and it's a football hill. It's an unfortunate thing, but you're just coming in to make a tackle. That DB's got a job to do as well. And, yeah, guys get hurt. It sucks. Football is violent. Welcome to the NFL. There was one guy on Twitter, I'm sure you've seen, I forget the dude's name, it's not even important, but he in all caps, he said, this is the kind of hit that should get you suspended for the entire season. Are you kidding me? The dumbest thing I heard in a long time. So clean hit, legal hit, football's violent, unfortunate. I'm glad that it wasn't more serious for Beckham Jr., but if you don't like this, well, turn off your TV.
Well said. I don't say any more to that. Ian?
here to Alex, my sentiments exactly. What do you want the defensive back to do? Do you want him to go high? Well, he's going to get a 15-yard penalty. I mean, do you want him to go solo that OGB just jumps over him? Well, no. He's got a job to do, as Alex said. He made the play. Beckham got hurt. He's going to be fine. We have to move on.
DJock?
Next topic.
All right, there we go.
I thought, Catrilla, you were going to come out and decide if this was an illegal dirty hit, and I was going to yell at you endlessly for it.
No, I'm in agreement. It was just the wrong place, wrong time. He had to make that play. I don't know really what he could have done in that instance, especially when you're facing a guy like ODB in the open field like that.
And to quote Forrest Gump, it happens.
Yeah.
Is that quote solely to Forrest Gump?
Well, no, but it's the cleaned up version.
The cleaned up version?
For this children's program we're running.
Right, because I'm sure our listeners...
Yes,
what is our
show.
demographic for the listener? Do we have a demographic? I don't think we even have that.
NFL fans.
Are there NFL fans listening to us?
Apparently, in the numbers, there's a few out there. We'd like to continue to grow that, but...
Is it just us? I think it's just us listening back to each other.
Nah, I don't think so.
I'm pretty sure that's our fan base.
Well, I'm sure there's a little bit to that, but I think we got a few out there. I really do.
Okay.
They're just in hiding still.
Yeah, that's the problem.
Hiding. Deep under. There's like witness protection program people, the only ones who listen to this show. But okay. All right.
Well, maybe there's a Cleveland fan out there, and we're going to get to them now. DeShone Kizer is now the starter for the Browns' third preseason game against the Bucs Saturday. And what's interesting is Brock Osweiler is not expected to play. So let me ask you this, and we talked about this in the past with Mitchell Trubisky, who we're seeing with the Browns, Deshaun Watson with the Texans. Are teams, and with the Browns specifically here, going too fast and trying to get the rookie quarterbacks into starting week one? I think that is the case. I think there's a lot wrong with DeShone Kizer, that he needs to sit a year and mature and learn. Though he has looked good this preseason, I'm not going to take that away from him, but I just don't think he's ready to make that next jump yet, though I think this is a good opportunity for him. So let me start with DJock on this. Your thoughts? Are the Browns going too fast with DeShone Kizer?
I mean, I guess a little bit. I mean, I think it's a little bit too early for me to fire. I'd much rather probably, I guess, have like Osweiler start the year and then kind of see what happens from there. But then you're always going to have Osweiler look over your shoulder. But also, Kaiser's outperformed Osweiler so far this preseason, so it kind of warrants him starting playing. You know, but then, as you said, you're kind of accelerating him a little bit too much. You're kind of throwing him to the fire a little bit too often. I mean, there's a lot of, again, I'm going all the variables here, but maybe like wait till after this preseason game, then maybe announce him before the first game. But I mean, I think overall, I think Kaiser's really not ready. You know, but again, I'm going to hedge and say, but he's your quarterback in the future per se, so you want to get him in there. So I don't fault the Browns for that, because this is probably one of the better quarterbacks the Browns have had in a while. But also hope that they don't screw it up either. So there's a lot of here, but I'd say yes, it is too early, but I don't fault the Browns for doing it.
Alex, now I know you've mentioned many times that if you're the Browns, you continue to start Cody Kessler at quarterback. So I'll let you go on limb for that. Do you think Kessler's getting an unfair shot here?
Well, here's what I'll say to this. I am a man who's a part of many one-man fan clubs. I am the Chidi Iwoma fan club. It's just me, the Ross Cockrell, the Antoine Blake, still me, Russell Bodine, the Bengals center. Even his mom, I'm pretty sure, thinks he's a terrible center. I still like Russell Bodine. Cody Kessler is part of my one-man fan club, where I might be the only guy left that thinks Cody Kessler deserves a shot. Do I think it's an unfair shot? Maybe. I haven't looked at that situation too closely. I know he hasn't gotten any first-team reps since August 5th, so, and I don't think he's better. I think Kessler's clearly better than Brock Osweiler. I don't know why Osweiler's gotten such a long look. Now, to the point about, Kizer, it's playing him too early, I don't like to say that rookie quarterbacks have to sit for a year or have to play right away. I think it's a case-by-case basis. I think Kizer's been impressive in moments, but if it was still me, I would still go with Cody Kessler. He's a tough guy. He's got some mobility. I think he played well under really bad circumstances last year, and maybe midway through the year you make a change depending on how things go. but at least not Osweiler, because Osweiler would have been just the worst decision to make. There's no long-term potential. There's no short-term potential. It'd just be dumb.
You also forgot to mention Chris Borland, which I'm a little disappointed about.
Well, people like Chris Borland. He was a very good player.
Oh, okay, that's true.
Yeah, my fan clubs for guys that are generally hated and generally not thought of as good, and I bucked the trend.
Yeah, there you go. Well, I tend to agree. I would actually start Kessler myself because I think Osweiler stinks. I don't know why. I'm still puzzled with the amount of reps and attention he's gotten this entire offseason. And you already know how much I'm down. I've been down on Kaiser. I think, and even at times where he looks good, you saw plenty of times, especially in this game against the Giants, where you saw him throwing off the back foot, throwing things up for grabs. You saw him take that hit when he ran for that third down when he should have slid, and he had plenty of room to do so. So I think there's a lot of growing still for DeShone Kizer to do, and I think trying to start in Week 1 is a really bad idea for Cleveland, as I think he could potentially be. He's got some tools there, especially with that strong arm of his, but he's got to work on a lot more decision-making and the mental part. That's where he really struggles the most. So I think that comes with some time and learning and being around some guys that have been in those shoes before. I think Cody Kessler's their best option right now. So, Alex, I do agree with you there. Ian, your thoughts?
My thoughts is, if you are the Cleveland Browns and you're most likely going to be drafting high again next year with all the picks you've accumulated, you need to figure out whether this guy's your quarterback or not. If he shows enough where you say, okay, we can work with this guy, we think he can be a good player, then you have to find out. And the only way you're going to find out is by him playing. Case in point, that's where he needs to be. Do you have a future with Cody Kessler? Probably not. Do you have a future with Brock Osweiler? No, you do not. With DeShone Kizer, you have a potential future, and you need to figure out what that is. He was a second-round pick. If he doesn't work out, plenty of second-round picks don't work out. So there's more quarterbacks coming out next year. If he doesn't work out, you look for a new guy there. And until then, you build the rest of your team, and you try to get as good as you can in every other position, which the Browns have done a really good job at. Their offensive line has improved. Their defensive line is young and really athletic. Their linebackers and their secondary, they've all gotten better. So if you're the Browns, continue with the youth movement. Get the guys who are young and who are energetic and have enthusiasm come and try and turn this culture around. Because that's the only way Cleveland's ever going to be relevant again, is by getting these young guys in there and getting them playing. If they don't cut the stuff, then get rid of them and move on.
Now,
but you have to find out.
The other guys, young guys, I can understand. Guys like a Myles Garrett, etc., some of the guys they brought in last year. But
what's the difference?
But the only thing is, quarterback is just so important that when do you...
Yeah, but the only way you're going to learn how to play it is by playing.
Right, but what I'm saying is, if you're the Browns, let's face it, since 1999, we all know that jersey that on the back, the running jersey of all the quarterbacks they've had. It's been a carousel since then. So my point is, when you're looking at all these young quarterbacks, I mean, Cody Kessler's only been in the league for 2 to 3 years. Then you draft DeShone Kizer. So my point is, where's the limit? Where's that fine line to being, okay, let's stop drafting quarterbacks and actually give more time to focus on some of these young guys we already have?
Well, you have to be able to do all things. That's the point of being an NFL head coach, is you can't just focus on one player. You know, my point is that they all have to get better. They all have to continue to play. The only way to get better is by playing the game, is by facing that live bullet. You know, listen, is it going to be better for DeShone Kizer to sit on the bench and play James Harrison, or actually be on the field and knowing that, okay, James Harris is coming, I have to get this ball out in 3 seconds? Nothing is better than live play.
Well, we shall see how he does against he's facing a pretty good defense too in Tampa Bay coming up on Saturday. We got to wrap up, guys, so before we do so, I'm going to go rapid fire real quick. Brock Osweiler, yes or no, will he still be a Cleveland Brown Week 1? DJock, start with you.
No.
Okay. Sure.
Because some quarterbacks that get hurt, probably, maybe, or some teams that got like their starter need a backup. So no, I think Cole probably get rid of him.
Ian?
Nope.
Alex?
Yes, because no one's trading for that contract.
Good point. I think Cleveland's going to eat some of that deal, and they're still going to get rid of him and get more draft picks. So I'm going to say no as well.
I think just cut him. They'll take the cap hit. I think they're just going to get rid of him.
I wouldn't be surprised with all 3 things that we said, but I don't think he's going to be with Cleveland either. But that's something to keep an eye on for sure. Well, guys, it was great to have the whole gang back finally. Hopefully this is the start of consecutive weeks now as we head into the regular season. 2 weeks away from today. Unbelievable. Patriots-Chiefs. I can't wait.
Controllo is fascinated by how time moves. That's the way to end it. Unbelievable. That was moved through the calendar.
I always am. It's
probably you probably watched the eclipse with that the proper sunglasses. Probably burned your eyes out.
actually not. I was driving at the time of the eclipse. So
Did you try to look at the eclipse while you were driving?
No, because I tend to think of myself as a good driver, and I kept my eyes on the road.
Oh, good job.
So that's how I roll.
Aren't you special?
That's just how I roll, man. Let the good times roll, as they say.
All right, that's enough. This show's over.
Yeah.
Be sure to follow the podcast on Twitter at FFPodcast1 for the show links and latest NFL news and notes and breaking news. Alex is on Twitter at Alex_Kazora. Ian's on Twitter at V104_Hunter. DJock on Twitter at Tyler_DiGiacomo. And I am at Twitter at MControllo. And of course, you can find all of our show archives on our YouTube page at Football Friday. Find all that there. And don't forget, we always take your questions before we do our recordings. We usually tweet that out about an hour or so before we start recording. So don't forget to send us your questions. Anything Steelers, anything Eagles, anything NFL related. So be sure to look out for that. So that's going to do it for this week's edition of the show. For Alex Kazora, Ian Hunter, Tyler DiGiacomo, I'm Matt Controllo. Enjoy week 3 of the preseason. And thanks for listening to the Football Friday podcast.